One constant that I've seen at the track is your dad.
Yeah,
you're there, he's there.
Every race.
He's there, you're there.
Absolutely. You know? And my other kind of dad, Lou Sipolt, I hadn't talked about him very much. He was the team manager for me for many years there in Mooresville. But yeah, my dad, he into every single race. Full support. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without him. I mean, I'm not like I touched on earlier. I wasn't like I had a bunch of natural talent. I'm like, hey, I'm the next superstar. Come hire me. It was like if I didn't have my father's backing to do this, I'd be watching races and who knows, pushing a pencil or digging a ditch or I don't know, doing something different. Not this. It's just.
But the common interest, it's a good thing.
Absolutely. And it's everything. And that's partially why I say I can't say that I regret turning down so many things because it wasn't in our cards. It was like, hey, we're doing our own thing, and so
it wouldn't be the same not running. Without your dad.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, like I said, he's been to every race. He's every part of this fully funding. I mean, like I said, we've had people like Fastenal's come along in the past and a couple of different people here and there to help us, but 99% of the funding was straight out of the company. We use it. It's a write-off ish. You use it for advertising and stuff, but it still costs money to do this.
Still costs money, right?
And it's a huge commitment. It really is to be competitive. It's a huge commitment.
A lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, and to have fun doing it and being competitive is a whole nother level of it comes and goes with some, and some people it comes and it stays. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, for example, they have all this natural ability and they work hard at it. So now they're flat out superstars. So, but yeah, my dad was the most important guy in my whole racing career, and one of his very good friends was Lou Sipolt, and when we made the move to Mooresville. Lou was like, hey, I want to move to Mooresville too, and I guess I didn't touch on that, but he was, huge in my career because he's worked with, AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, the Bowsers, and Richard Petty, Alan Kowicki. He's worked with several people.
Guy's a legend. I mean,
yeah, he really is.
You mentioned that name, and people.
He's the they call him the mayor. Because in the Mooresville Drag Strip Park, he says mayor on his golf cart. He does his rounds every day, and I mean he's probably the most well-known guy in the drag strip park today. Because he's still in the same building that John Darby bought from us, same office, much nicer office now. Same. I mean, that's just what he wants to do, and that's what keeps him going. He's 87 years old now, and he's getting around really well and gets up every day and 6:30 and he's there reading the paper.
We wish we had his energy.
Answering phones and getting logistics figured out for people and just he'll do anything he can for anybody. He's a great guy.
Speaking of another great bunch of people, you got a young lady that you're now with?
Yeah, my wife Jen. Pretty cool story on that. We knew each other in like 7th grade.
Wow.
We both went to the same schools. She lived nearby. Met her in like 7th grade. No, it was 8th grade. Wood shop class. Wood shop.
A girl in
She was
wood
the
shop?
only girl in wood shop.
That's got to be impressive.
Yeah. And all the dudes, including myself, were all like intimidated. And you're like, oh my god. Kind of weird. But then they paired us up with somebody. For like, this is like important now because we're a bunch of dudes, and now we're gonna go turn in something for a grade. And to be honest with you, I didn't care about if I got an A or a B or a C in like English or math or like whatever other. But in wood shop, it was like, or metal shop too. Those two classes were like, I'm gonna
Typical guy thing.
do the best I could do, you know. Cool. So they paired people up. You could pick a partner type thing. Well, of course, all the people, including myself, were taking this pretty seriously. So who's gonna pick the girl, right?
Right.
So I ended up like, okay, whatever.
Just imagine her.
I got kind of like, well, I guess I'll say stuck with her. You know, like she's my partner, but she's really hot and stuff, so that's cool. Gotten to know her pretty well, and actually she was good at it. She's like, okay, we're not going to do so bad after all. Like we didn't get a D or anything. I don't remember what our grade was, but it worked out. I was like, cool. Became friends. Went to 8th grade graduation dance together, stuff like that. Then in high school, never really. I don't know what happened. It was just like a thing to where sometimes you go through a summer and certain people you just don't talk to anymore. You move on to a new clique of friends, or I was skateboarding too much, or started racing actually, stuff like that, and going to a lot of races. In 92, 93, I went to a lot of races. My first time at Pocono was 93 when Bob won actually his 6th race. So pretty cool stuff. But so. Didn't really see her much at all throughout high school. She went her way, I went mine. Then I moved to Mooresville. She moved to Florida. Then she had a child with her ex, name's Peyton. She moved back here because we got back together, kind of like on a Facebook thing. So where she lived in Florida, still divorced. I had moved back here, and now I'm divorced. We kind of got. It was actually a guy that worked here. His name was Frank. He found this picture of the 8th grade graduation dance picture, and there's this little kid. His name, not little kid. He was a dwarf. His name was Kyle Nelson. He was a straight up dwarf, little a midget, but actually the proper terminology is dwarf. And he just thought it was hilarious that there's this little mini dude, and he just thought it was funny as hell. He put it on the internet, like, oh, look at this funny picture of AJ in 8th grade and his little midget friend, and blah, blah. He thought it was hilarious. Well, Jen commented on it, like, oh, is that me? Because it's kind of, oh, that's me in the picture, whatever, And then I commented, like, later on, like, hey, happy birthday or something like that. And then we didn't talk for years. And a couple of years go by, and a guy that worked for me here, one of my good friends, was talking with her a little bit on Facebook, just friendly stuff, And she's like, oh, I'm going to be in town. And, I was like, oh, cool. So he comes up to me one day. I'm running a lathe or doing something back here. He comes up and he's like, hey, he's like, remember Jen Hipwell? I'm like, what? He's like, well, Jenny Leak. Her last name was Leak at the time, but being married, Hipwell. I was like, yeah, sure, I remember. He's like, yeah, she's gonna stop by and come hang out with us for lunch today. I was like, okay. I'm like, she lives in Florida, whatever. And I didn't even take him seriously. And she comes in. I'm like, oh crap, cool. Hung out and it just clicked, and before you know it, I think she flew to like 15 races in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, all of them. All 15 of them, yeah. And we had a long distance thing. Actually, she flew like 30 times that year because she went to all the races, then come up here. I mean, wow. I think, yeah, it was. She ended up leaving a really good job down there too, like
Sounds like
she had it actually. She was set, but it was just the love connected us, and I already had lived here, and her family lives here still, so it was kind of a thing to where she moved back, and she moved back here, and we got married, and
so like Huey Lewis said, happy to be stuck with you, like the word you used, got stuck with her in wood shop, and you're stuck together this day, right?
yeah, it was awesome. It's cool how that all worked out.
Does your son have any interest in maybe racing, maybe?
No, not really. I mean, well, he I mean, not to actually do it. I mean, he's on the autism spectrum, to where it's the Fragile X is what he has, and it's not quite. Like, I'm not sure if he'll ever have a driver's license or anything like that.
Okay.
But I mean, on iRacing, he's great. He's like probably the best at Super Mario in the world, you know. And,
So
and
legacy
just,
somehow continues.
you know, yeah. But it's just, you know, he might forget to stop at a red light someday because he's distracted. You know, just it's
Right,
not
right.
in his cards to ever drive a real car. But
Right.
golf carts, sure, he does great. It's just, I don't think we should ever put him in that position
Yeah.
to make a mistake, maybe eventually,
Yeah.
because we all do.
Yeah.
And in his condition, it's just like, I don't think that would work out. There's no reset button. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Mario Kart, he can be winning all day long and then have a thing where he's just like, and all of a sudden now he's watching a Thomas movie and could care less. But now the thing's
Right.
going up in the fence and crashing. But so,
Right.
but he's really good at it. His hand-eye coordination is all there and stuff like that. So,
Right.
and that's been a pretty cool change in my life, having someone like him in my life.
Because
It gives you
responsibilities change now in the way you look at things.
a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
I've had some different perspectives, trust me. I mean, literally almost dying a few times. I take
Yeah.
every day like a bonus. But then, you know, I shouldn't say dealing with, but, you know, not dealing with that situation, but having that kind of a situation with an autistic child in my life has really opened my eyes up to different things of I appreciate things differently and
Yeah.
respect things more.
Maybe a little more
You know,
patience.
yeah, whoa, way more patience. Like, you don't even know. I mean, unbelievable patience developing. But even though I'm still impatient, a lot more than I ever have been. Absolutely. So that's been a pretty cool thing. And in the beginning, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this. I'll be honest with you. I
Yeah.
even told her straight
Sure.
up, I'm like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this.
Sure.
Because it's going to be tough for him
Good,
too
Good to be honest.
to accept me as like his new dad or whatever.
Yeah. Good to be honest. People
Yeah.
are fun.
So, but it's worked out to where it's amazing. The kid's amazing, and it's like I said, it's changed my life for the better in multiple ways, almost every way possible.
Well, that's a good way to wrap this all up. Is when I do these interviews, I always ask people, because we don't write our own epitaphs. We don't take a little chisel and chisel out our own headstone. But the legacy you hope that you leave would be what? And it sounds like you touched on it a little bit. I mean, you all the people that the tour you give me of the shop, and all the people that your dad's talked about, and the way he treats his employees, and the way you guys have treated your people. To me, that appears what your legacy will be. But what do you hope it'll be when people look back on you?
I don't know, just I guess being a part of so many different creations out of the start. Like the karts, the truck series, this TA2 thing. It's a good feeling being a part of something new in motorsports.
And development too. You've developed some neat
And
parts
the
and
company
pieces
thing. Yeah, exactly. Actually, for the ball joint thing, recently we got our ball joint patented that we sell exclusively to left-hander. And that's a pretty cool thing. It's it's an affordable, adjustable. There's different settings and different heights, and it's for multiple different types of race cars. Anything from an ARCA car to a hobby stock to a IMCA modified or whatever. We have an application for that. So that's been a lot of fun. I think we've sold about $1 million in these things over the last few years. It's really taken off, but mainly because they're affordable and it's a good product. It's been a really cool thing. It's been to do different things like that and get more involved in stuff, engineering and stuff that take some motorsports knowledge and do things like that. Even with the company, there's a few things that do transfer over, and I'd like to eventually get more involved in that and keep things going there and keep the race team going the way it is and keep having fun with
keep giving people chances that
absolutely
they may not have had.
Yeah, that or like not so much a second chance, but just like a fun thing. Like Bill Elliott, for example, doing that deal. He already had his glory days, obviously.
Right.
And he was there for one thing, and one thing only, was just to have fun. And if someone came up to him for an autograph, he had no problem talking to people. But he wasn't like there for like, hey,
Right.
But he has no problem doing that. He already had those days of the multiple $1 million money and all that stuff. So
Where you can't move. And
yeah. And the same now with Boris. He doesn't. I'm not sure if he ever wants to do a full-time gig again in racing because he's busy with companies and stuff that he's got going on. So,
It's a
to
fun
do
thing.
something with a laid back team like us, but competitively laid back.
Perfect for them.
Right. So a lot of these guys have loved our atmosphere and the way we do it. We laugh a lot, we joke a lot. We have a beer at 5 o'clock when we're done racing. You know, it's a pretty cool, you know, pretty cool thing.
Which kind of dovetails into the comment I made is that, you know, you guys have been a friend of racers and a friend of racing, and especially to me, and I just can't say how much I thank you for being on the show. It's been a wealth of knowledge, and hope folks, you know, learned a lot, because I have, and you just can't say thanks for being on the show enough. I mean, I
Absolutely.
sit here for the rest of the day saying that.
Oh
but
yeah,
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You know?
There's probably things we left out, but for the most part, I think that was kind of fun going over it. I've never done that before, honestly. Not all of that. I've done a little bit here and there with different people, but never covered it from
A to Z is a
1984 to now. Honestly, yeah.
Got a few letters in there, but you know, and that's the one thing I was going to say is that you didn't see a lot on interviews. You're almost kind of like the forgotten guy, but you know, they knew you were there, but you didn't get a lot of mics stuck in your face. So I'm happy to be the guy that did it.
That
for
was
the most part.
a lot of times. I will admit, a lot of times it was my fault. I don't know if it was just I was too shy, or I don't know. I didn't know if I was gonna like mumble or say the wrong thing. But there was times where it's like, okay, they're gonna interview you here in a minute, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
and I'm out.
Exit stage left, yeah, right.
Sorry. So like the only time I was ever interviewed was like when they were all of a sudden was just like,
Yeah.
which they started to do in about 2003, 4, 5ish, even at the NASCAR level. It wasn't like before that. It was like you caught a driver's interview after they had changed clothes, and they're all calmed down and, hey, what happened out there? And they're a little more calmed down than getting out of the car like, roar, what just happened, you know? But they started doing that for drama reasons, to get an interview right then and there where you're pouring sweat, the adrenaline's like pumping, and you're in your suit.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the only time I was ever caught an interview, was when I didn't expect it. I was just like, I guess I'm talking on TV live. Because there was live ARCA races then.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, almost all of them.
And I'm sure your dad said, "Hey, should I mention ECC more?"
Yeah, it's true. That was mostly my fault, being shy about not wanting to be on camera.
And you were young.
Lindsay Zarniak was one of the reporters I told you the Hotspur at that one point. Seriously,
Who didn't?
You know, we tried to like go on dates with her and stuff. And we were friends, and that's all I ever was. But I was intimidated because I was had the Hotspur, and she was the main person, and it kind of just fell into where now I definitely don't want to get interviewed because I don't want to say the wrong thing in front of her. So my shyness.
Back on CRX.
And I've told her this
SRX.
too. I told her this the last time I saw her. It's been a few years now. Like I said, having you as the main announcer didn't necessarily help me get over my shyness of, it would actually hurt,
Sure,
But-
blame it on somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I didn't do it for that. I mean, a lot of people don't, but things have changed, For example, like when I started skateboarding, people weren't skateboarding to make money.
Right.
So now there's actually kids being trained by their parents, like, hey, this is what you need to do. You can make so much money, and
Forget
you can
the
be in the
pageant
X Games
thing,
and the Olympics.
Then
And
you can be a millionaire. Yeah,
so
Olympic
people
sport,
actually
right.
literally start doing it to be a star.
Yeah.
Whereas I never started anything to be a star. I just want to have fun and live my life, and I never really was. I never was a star. It's just I've had a lot of fun and know a lot of cool people.
Would it be safe to say
cool people drove for me, and
would it be safe to say they know ECC more than they do AJ
sure,
Henriksen?
yeah, absolutely, right.
And that seems fine with you.
Well, I love it. I mean, people
Anonymity is
Google
fine.
Adam's name. I mean, you see everything that you can think of with us, which is awesome to be tied into something like that.
Yeah.
Or type in Bill Elliott ECC. It goes right to our webpage and
Yeah.
shows the pictures of when you drove the car. And it's
It's a legacy a lot of
fun.
people would love to
And then
have.
getting back with Bob. I don't know if we'll talk about that for a second. Got back with Bob and did some stuff with him. That was really cool. Some Super Cup races. A start at Road America in his ARCA car.
Right.
And, we're back friends again. So that's cool.
Which is good. Well,
Yeah.
and to wrap that up, it sounds like, that's the legacy, is the fun you've had and the friends you made.
Absolutely.
So, well,
Absolutely.
on behalf of one of your friends, appreciate it, AJ. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.